Hello, my name is Ruth Samalo, and I am one of the features programmer, and it's my great pleasure to have you all here for the Q&A for Sons of Repression. And we have directors Marianne, Hougen-Moraga, and Estephan Wagner with us, all the way from Chile or from Germany?
From Copenhagen, actually.
We are in Denmark.
From Denmark. Hello, hello, and welcome.
Hi there. Such a pleasure to be with you.
Thank you so much for joining us and for letting us share this amazing film with the American audiences. First of all, tell us a little bit about how did you two get involved with this project? How did you get interested in Colonia Dignidad, and how did you gain the trust of the people that are still living there?
Yeah, so I think we should start. To answer that question, we should start with our backgrounds, because we actually come from two very different backgrounds. I myself grew up in Denmark with my mother, who was a Chilean refugee. She left Chile in 1973 when Pinochet took over and made a dictatorship there. And while growing up with my mother, I sometimes heard whisperings about Colonia Dignidad, which was the name of the colony at the time. And that was a place quite near to where my family in Chile lived. But it was always talked about in a way that I shouldn't ask too much about that place, that political prisoners had disappeared in there. That was basically what I had heard about the place.
And nobody chooses we don't choose where we get born, like the people in the film. But my background is almost the opposite as Marianne. So I grew up in Chile in a German minority family, very right-wing, politically speaking. And I always heard about the colony as this wonderful place where German culture is preserved and all these talented Christians were living like heaven on earth. And when we grew older, obviously, we both learned that the world is more complex than what we were taught as children. But living in Europe and having the view upon Chile from both knowing it from the inside, but looking at it from the outside, we realized that this was a microcosmos that could talk about so many other things, that beside the sect and all the horrible things that happened there in the past, it is a place and a film that speaks about trauma, about repression of consciousness, about totalitarian and post-totalitarian regimes. So we wanted to explore that.
Yeah, and that sort of brings me to your next question, which was, how did we get close to the inhabitants of what is today called Villa Baviera? The Bavarian village, and I mean, one key thing was time. We went there for research, and then a year later we actually moved to Chile, and we stayed there for half a year, where we went to the colony every day. We stayed in a city close to the colony, and within that time, we got really close to many of the people in there. They started coming to us, asking if we would film with them, and they realized that we were genuinely interested in their lives, in their opinions and views, and we would let them speak from their logic. So we tried to understand their logic, and it became, in a way, a collaboration between them and us of how we should make the film, what we should show. So, and that also led us to the whole, to a way of exploring the subjects of totalitarian regimes, post-totalitarian regimes. And so through each person, for example, through Horst and Helga, who is the couple that is mostly against the system inside the colony, you also in one way see the results of having grown up in a totalitarian system, and the results of what happens when this system is not, when this system is repeating itself after it's officially not there anymore. Yeah.
I mean, I think, you know, you talking about them, about Helga specifically, she carries one of the, to me, one of the most striking scenes when they are in the kitchen table, just her and her husband talking to this sex educator that is coming to the school. And the sex educator is telling them, well, you know, we're going to teach them that, you know, the love and sex, you know, are linked together. And like the first kiss should be a kiss of love. And she's like, huh? I never thought about that. And
Yeah.
that is just the realization of like the life that these, you know, couple have lived, and they're still in many ways living, because I think, you know,
Yeah, absolutely.
it's incredible. Like, how did you, I mean, they seem very casual about just acknowledging that. Are they aware of the level of trauma that they've gone under?
Partly, they are aware of it. Now, not everybody is equal in the colony, and there are some people who are totally repressing their traumas. I mean, they went through, as you learned in the film, they went through these sessions where the ones highest up in the hierarchy would force them to what was called forgive and forget, and to never ever talk about it again. And obviously, I mean, you don't need to be a rocket scientist to understand that that doesn't solve any traumas. But what was really interesting is that we went to Chile to show the film just before we premiered at CPH Docs. And it was such a catharsis to have them seeing it. Now, they have gone through the media quite often. There have been news pieces and reportages about them, but they're always very judgmental. And we heard again and again from them that it was the first time they saw themselves on screen. They recognized themselves, and we heard several times, among them also Helga, telling us, I mean, literally saying, I can't believe how damaged I am after seeing herself, after having a mirror in front of herself. Now, she has a severe depression and gets medicine from a psychiatrist, and still, I mean, she has a very hard time.
Something that you do beautifully in the film, I think, is bring us to this land of strange contrasts. You know, the paradise, the landscape, this ghostly landscape that is also gorgeous, but also, you know, these sweet old ladies that come in their trolleys looking really cute and funny, that then tell you that they love Pinochet and everything was great, you know, and all these contradictions all layer into each other. But yet you're not judging, you're just showing us. And I think that's an incredible opportunity for us as audience and for the people in the film to be allowed to be who they are, and then, you know, everybody can make up their own minds about it. But can you tell us a little bit about what was your intention in the way you made this film in relationship to how the filmmaking process was going to affect them in the film, but also the audience while watching it?
Yeah, so I mean, you point out something very important about the images and the visual part of the film and the contrast. So we worked a lot with that. We found that there is a huge contrast between the beauty of the place and the whole history that beauty contains. So in a way, we wanted to go with this, that there is also a wish from most of the people who live in the colony today to keep up a postcard-like image of the place now. And that postcard-like imagery, we in one way went with by making all these beautiful images of the place. But we leave them standing for a very long time. And in that, we hoped that we could let the nature talk for itself, because the nature has been witnessing all kinds of atrocities in there. And as an audience, we hope that when you sit and look into these beautiful images, you have time to think, digest, analyze, just think about what actually happened there. And the same thing with the singing. The singing, normally singing has to do with freeing yourselves from emotion, or just letting emotions flow as they come and go. And what we saw was that Paul Schaefer, he used the singing to, in a way, repress everyone in there and make them keep singing until it became painful for them. But today, they still use the singing to, in a way, forget what happened to them. And it's one strategy to survive as well. It's one strategy to get on. Whereas, for example, Horst, he's against this way of trying to survive because it's too painful for him. In a way, it relives the trauma inside him if he should sing.
We perceive some tensions between, some of the higher class, directorate people that are still kind of like holding more power than the rest of them. Mm-hmm. Some of the people that are in alignment with them and what happened. Some of the people that are more self-aware and that they feel a little bit more trapped, and maybe if they had other economical viable options, maybe they would leave. And you even like talked to a man that left. I can't remember his name right now. But,
yes.
So you have kind of like the three dimensions, within, which I'm sure there's more complex than just that. But how was it for them, knowing that you were talking to everybody, knowing that the film was going to incorporate everybody's point of view? Was it there ever like a sense of like somebody trying to manipulate you so the film will have a particular message? Or did you feel like everybody was safe telling you whatever they wanted? How was that dynamic going on?
It was a mixture, I would say, and it depended whom. There were some, like Horst and Helga, who have a very different view to most of the group, that were totally open for us to talk with others. And they were like, okay, maybe if we, because they are not able to speak to each other, really. So they were thinking, okay, if you talk to us and if you talk to them in a film, it will almost be like a dialogue, the dialogue that we don't have. Now, other people that are much more interested in pressing their point of view through, they were not that happy about it. And there are scenes when we are with Aki and Horst at the old torture chambers, when they get spied upon, and then at a different place where they tell us to leave. So obviously they felt it was dangerous in a way. But then the other part of your question, which is if somebody wants to get their agenda across, in a way, everybody wanted that. And we went with it because we were explicitly not trying to judge or impose our view, but we want to understand their own point of view and their logic, which is much more fascinating and complex, because otherwise, I mean, we always fall into these patterns, the good and the bad, but suddenly when you don't have that, it gets muddy. And I mean, over there's not the victim and the victimizer. Most of them are both, which is tricky. But then at the same time, that's real life. I mean, we are not in a Batman movie, luckily.
And we were talking before about you mentioned that you show it to them. So can you tell us a little bit about their reaction when they saw it? Like if everyone from all these different points of view saw it as a positive, having participated in the film, but also tell us, because it looks like the film is about to be released or has been released in Chile. How do you think the audiences are responding to it, and what would you like the audiences and the authorities in Chile specifically, but in I'm from Spain, we had a similar situation. We had a pact of silence after, the death of Franco. So there is very similar histories in a lot of countries. So what can we take from this film in terms of national historical reconciliation?
Shall we start with the reception of the film in the colony?
Yes.
Yeah, so that was actually quite intense, but very beautiful as well. It was when Europe was closing down due to COVID-19. Estephan went to Chile while I stayed in Copenhagen to finish the last parts of the film. And first we screened it to Helga and Horst because we wanted to make sure that they would be okay with the film. If they wouldn't be okay, we would have to find another solution for it. But when they watched it, it was of course very, very hard. But they found that it was actually another support for them to keep fighting for their rights inside the colony. Especially Horst, he said that if I can't stay inside the colony and fight for my rights, what do I then have? And then the next day we opened up for the rest of the colony to watch the film. So Estephan made a screening for the whole colony, and that was really moving. Maybe you wanna?
Yeah, well, just to give one example, because there were many people having very, very emotional reactions, most of them actually. There were some who kind of protested because they felt that their agenda wasn't coming across strong enough. They wanted more screen time. But beside of those very few individuals, I mean, the vast majority was, I mean, in a state of catharsis, as said. And I just want to talk about one example. An old man, he is, I think now he's 94 or 95. He has been in prison because he participated in torturing political prisoners. So, I mean, yeah, you can imagine the kind of man, but he stood up shaking and took the microphone and hold a long speech. And at some point he says, it's only now that I realized that I didn't only inflict pain to people out there, but also to some of our own people. And it is first now that I understand why some of you never speak with me. And I would wish that you would come and talk to me because I am ready. And I mean, I guess still remembering that moment, I mean, it as a filmmaker, to hear that is just, you know, yeah, that means a lot. That means a lot.
And what about the general audience in Chile, and perhaps what would you like for the audiences and the authorities to learn from this film, or to be inspired by the film to do?
Let me quickly start, because I mean everybody knows probably this is pre-recorded, so when you see this, the news will be out there. So we premiered at Chile's most important film festival, and we just got the news actually today, half an hour ago, that we won the main award of the festival, which is wonderful in every way. I mean, the film has been lucky to win quite a few awards by now, and some of them really prestigious. But this, for us and for the film, I mean, means so much.
So much. Yeah. So maybe we would like to use this moment as you open up for us, telling what we would like the authorities in Chile and actually also Germany, what we would like them to consider. And Songs of Repression was 4 years in the making, and here it is. During the same 4 years of Sebastián Piñera, the Chilean president's government, nothing has happened in Chile. So we would actually like to say, Mr. President, during your second term, you have not honored the agreement between Chile and Germany from 2017. I want to remind you the eloquent name of the agreement. It is the establishment of the Chilean-German Mixed Commission to work on the historic memory of Colonia Dignidad and the integration of the victims into society. Your government has been characterized by passivity and silence in that matter. Today, you have two close collaborators of the brutal sect Colonia Dignidad in your current government, the Minister of Interior, Víctor Pérez, the Minister of Justice and Human Rights, Hernán Larraín. Mr. President, there is a total lack of serious investigations to identify the remains of dozens of people disappeared on the colony's land. And even more, an effort to transform the place into a memorial and documentation site. And you committed to that in the German-Chilean memorandum.
I would like to add that in 2019, the German government finally installed a fund to compensate with 10,000 euros each of the 200 remaining victims. Chancellor Angela Merkel, this is a symbolic help, but not an adequate reparation of decades of crimes and abuses in which the Chilean and German states were participants. We ask you, Mrs. Chancellor, to use your power to push for real action. 2 years ago, you and Chile's President Piñera agreed to create a memorial and documentation site at Colonia Dignidad. But until today, nothing has happened. If it is not Germany, but Chile who is stopping the process, we ask you demand movement from President Piñera. We believe that the mistakes of the past should be corrected with concrete actions in the present. It is the responsibility of both states that were responsible for the Colonia Dignidad disaster to find a solution for the victims now. Thank you.
Thank you so much. I hope this festival and its platform for social justice and reparations can help in bringing this message out.
We hope so too.
Thank you for making this film, and thank you so much for sharing this with us.
Thank you.
Thanks for having us and having the film on your beautiful festival.
We wish we would be there.
Yeah.